This really is with the OU Urban Design Studio. The students through the College of Urban Design will actually end up getting a master's when they complete this program. This is a project that they've looked at. This is their vision of what the Arkansas Riverbank could look like down at the end of Aspen, so down on the south side of our community. What we're really looking for tonight is consideration, discussion, input, your voice on this item. And then as a staff, Mr. Spurgeon and the staff is looking for what are our next steps? Where should we go from here? So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Farhad and let him come up and introduce the team.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council,
Evening.
Assistant City Manager.
I don't know that your microphone.
You may not be on.
This is the.
I don't think your mic's on.
Oh, you're on.
Okay.
This is the Aspen Landing project that we've been working on for the last 2 semesters. In the 2019 comprehensive plan, the next plan that the council approved a few years ago, there were many quality of life projects and ideas that were suggested in the comp plan. This is one of the many ideas that we've had in there. So this is a wonderful project. We started this last year, where the city owns approximately 234 acres of land, as you all know, at the south end of Aspen by the river in 2 sections. Most of the land right now is used by the soccer club, and the east side of it is used by the baseball club. Over the years, we've not had many other uses out there. Occasionally, the city has had other events out there. So this idea in the comprehensive plan is to create other opportunities for the community to have. So giving credit to Professor Sean Schaefer, who will be kind of introduce the project here, we met last year to kind of come up with ideas. There was the council approved a 9-person advisory board made up of the sports teams, a neighborhood staff, parks department, and so forth. And this is a report that's available online, and then subsequently we'll be updating it as necessary. I'll be answering questions after we go through the presentation to allow you all have more time to look at the study and have questions with it. So I'll introduce Sean Schaefer, who will come in and introduce these students and give a little background of this report.
Thank you, Farhad. Madam Mayor, councilors, it's an honor and privilege to be here today. And I have brought my class. They're going to do all the hard work of presenting the study. They did most of the hard work on creating the study, right? I'm the director of the Urban Design Studio for the Gibbs College of Architecture at OU. And we have a Master Urban Design program at OU Tulsa that these students are part of. And the best way for them to learn how to be urban designers is to work with community partners on service learning projects like this. There's nothing better. And this was a great project for them. Had a lot of different diverse stakeholders, a very complex site. I think they've done an admirable job. There is a written report that goes with this. They're going to summarize it for you. And we'll be happy to take any questions after the conclusion of the presentation. So who leads off? Dylan, come up here. So this is Dylan Sires, and you'll meet Presley Anderson and Tyler Duncan. They're all part of the presentation.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Sweet. So I'm Dylan Sires, as Sean said. I'm a second-year student at the OU Urban Design Studio. And I'm going to... And it is not working now. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to kind of cover the first 2 sections here, the introduction, which we're going to kind of just roughly go over the site for anyone who's not aware with it, and then a brief site analysis with some pictures of things that we've noticed during our study. Go ahead and go to the... No. Do I have to point behind me?
Oh, okay.
No? Okay. You can go ahead. All right, so the location of the Indian Springs Sports Complex is on the southern end of Aspen Avenue, right along the Arkansas River. It is currently intersected by a couple of streams that we do try to incorporate into our design elements. Yeah, here you go. And it is about 234 acres, as Farhad had mentioned earlier. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Here's another picture of it. As I mentioned, there's a couple of streams that you can see with the tree cover on the east side, but also on the south side. One of the most notable streams is the opening of the Hakey Creek into the Arkansas River. That is also kind of incorporated into our design elements later down the line. So we did have some wonderful stakeholders that helped us and gave us some great guidance throughout the project. First is, of course, Farhad Daroga, who is the placemaking manager here at the City of Broken Arrow. Jill Ferentz, who was the interim director of community development at the time of the project. Christy Gillespie, who is the vice mayor.
Honorable.
Honorable.
Your honor. Sorry, go ahead.
I like that.
Lori Hill, who is the director of tourism and economic development. Phil Hink, who was the park superintendent of the City of Broken Arrow. Travis Kelly, who is the general manager of the Broken Arrow Youth Baseball. Joanne Oxford, who is a neighbor that was near the sports complex. Barbara Wilson, who's the general manager of the BA Soccer Club. And Amanda Yamaguchi, who at the time was planning section manager. I believe she's got a new role, which is great. Congratulations, Amanda. But yeah, everyone and our stakeholders, I feel like we had a really good group of people between the soccer club and the baseball club managers, but also, city staff as well was a great help for everybody to be a part of that. So, is it working now? Awesome. So one of the first questions that we ask our stakeholders is just kind of what they would like to see in the park. What this is here is the larger the word is, the more we see, the more we heard from our stakeholders. So nature preservation and economic development were two of the biggest things we heard. So we really tried to incorporate that into our designs. And then we kind of boiled all of those down to some stakeholder goals. That way we can kind of check off these goals as we are doing our designs. Improve connectivity, that keep businesses in Broken Arrow, attract visitors, and create connectivity within the park, but also outside the park to other attractions in town. So some site analysis. Here we have the entrance. This is looking south from Aspen. One thing that we noticed first is there are no sidewalks. There's no alternate forms of travel to get into the park. So if you're getting here, you're either walking on the road, walking on the grass, or taking a car, or riding a bike on the road. This comes into our design elements later down the line and kind of highlights that connectivity issue that we identified with our stakeholders. The next one is the second entrance on Shreveport Street. Once again, there's not any sidewalks, no side paths of any kind to encourage people to go to the park in different ways. And if you guys are aware with it, this street does connect to a neighborhood. There was some design ideas of possibly closing that off, only allowing access for emergency vehicles when needed. But yeah, it's kind of surprising that there's not any connectivity with walking or biking when it's so close to neighborhoods. Infrastructure. There were a couple of sites that did have lights, existing infrastructure. So one of our goals was to not move those fields around, so we had to replace the existing lights. Most of these were on full-size soccer fields. So a lot of the full-size soccer fields that had lights, they stayed. Because like I said, we didn't want to have to replace lights later down the line. Here is there is a pipeline. There's two pipelines that travel through the park. So this kind of relates to our design concepts, mostly because we had to be strategic on where we were placing new structures. On top of it being in a flood area, which I believe Presley will talk about a little later, we also had to consider these transmission pipelines and liquid pipelines that go through the park. The concessions, bathrooms, and the pavilion, this is actually looking north from the Loop Road, which I don't know if you all are familiar with the site, but let me go back a little bit. Yeah, the Loop Road is this right here. This was not one of our favorite. Oh yeah, you guys can't see it. The Loop Road is right here. It's exactly what it is. It's a loop road. Not a favorite from us. Oh, it's fine.
I was gonna say, we figured out where the loop was.
Yeah, I figured.
We can
Yeah,
see that loop.
Yeah.
it looks like a loop. Thank you. Yeah, this was one of our. This was a design element that we, as urban design students, we weren't a huge fan of, mostly because it really seemed to separate the park. So if you are playing at these larger fields near the river, you wanted to go to the bathroom, you're going to have to cross a road. Everyone parks there if you guys have been there. So that was a design element that we had to kind of think about in our process. Let me get back to where I was, though. Yeah. But once again, the pavilions, the restrooms, the concessions, they're functional. They could be better, but there's just the lack of connectivity is pretty obvious here. The streams, one of my favorite features of the park. So it serves as a good place to put some walking trails. In addition to the streams would be the walking trails. They go north and south through the park, I believe in 2 different sections. But this is looking north from the bridge on Shreveport Street. And this bridge, which you'll kind of see on the next slide, once again, doesn't have any sidewalks. So this stream separates the baseball fields and the soccer fields. So if you park at the soccer side, but you have another kid that plays baseball, and if you wanted to walk, you're going to have to walk across this bridge, which doesn't have any sidewalks. You're going to have to walk on the road, and it does get busy. I'm sure some of you all are aware it is a busy soccer and baseball complex. So one of the considerations here with our design elements were to, do some walking trails along the streams to, preserve that nature, to enhance or to be able to come and take a walk through the trees by the water, but to also, maybe add some sidewalks or something along this bridge here. This is the east baseball fields. So this parking lot is really prone to flooding. And I believe that in our designs, we actually kind of create some sort of wetland type area here where we're able to just utilize the lot as a way to enhance that nature there as well. And then we got some really great photos of the Arkansas River. This is the one way we were able to get into it was back behind the baseball fields on the east side of the park. You go through like some open space, and then you kind of go down a hill and you get down to some pretty cool sandbars. We did see a couple people fishing out there. They were way farther out than where we were, but it does get some attention currently, and it's not accessible really at all. And I think if we were able to just kind of,
Is that a
We have a
beach?
beach.
yeah, it's a beach. It could very well be one.
No one needs to leave our city. We have our own beach.
Exactly. Yeah. It's super neat down there. If you guys have never went, I encourage you all to go. But, one of the things we wanted to consider in our design elements in the Arkansas River was to just make it more accessible for people so they could at least check it out and get an idea of what's down there. I had no idea it was down there before we started this project, but hopefully people will one day.
So I've never been down that far either.
Mhm.
So it looks like I have a kayak. So could I just put my kayak in there? Is there enough water to?
Yeah, I would say it really depends on the day. Possibly.
Hang out at the beach, go kayaking.
Yeah, you hang out at the beach. You can put your kayak in if you really wanted to.
That's what I
Yeah.
That's what I think. Don't touch the water.
But for community engagement, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Presley, and she'll do her introduction and everything.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm Presley Anderson. I'm also one of the students who worked on this project. So real quick, so just the right button. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay. So we did 2 community engagement events. The first one was at the site on October 22nd, and the other one was at the City Expo on February 18th. So we did a visual preference survey, and it looks like this. So we had originally 2 stickers. So we had one yellow sticker and one green sticker where we had put what you'd like to see, put what you'd like to do. And we had them put stickers and we tallied them up to kind of get ideas of how to drive our designs. So here's the summary of those results. So the main, Zipline showed up top of the list on both occasions. Walking trails, splash pads, water activities, observation deck, and outdoor theater were also top results as well. So research and analysis we did. So we reviewed previous plans that had been adopted to kind of drive a framework for our design. So this one is from Broken Arrow's comprehensive plan, and this one is the land use framework. So you can see for the area, they propose to keep a lot of the green space, some commercial uses in the darker reds, I believe. Then we also looked at the Arkansas River Corridor Master Plan. So this plan was by Alabac Design, and it looked at the whole stretch of the Arkansas River from Tulsa, Jinx, Bixby, all the way down. And this was one of their designs they had for our site. So it was really great to review that and kind of serve as a framework for some of our designs. We also looked at the BA Parks and Recreation Master Plan and some of their, proposed parks, some of their proposed trails to see where connectivity could be with our design. Also looked at the GO plan, so looked at some more trails and where we might propose side paths and such. We did some of our own analysis as well. So we did an urban x-ray of connectivity. So you guys probably know the one way into the park is down Aspen, and you can go through the neighborhood, but I don't know that the residents really enjoy people doing that, and it's, kind of windy. So as a part of our design, we also proposed a new entrance into the site to kind of help with connectivity into the park. We also looked at open space. So we wanted to maintain a lot of the tree cover that we see here. We felt that, it's easy to tear down trees, but it's hard to grow them all back. So we try to save that as much as possible. And, the area does have a lot of good green space and tree coverage that we'd like to keep. So we also looked at buildings in the area. So we have mostly, single families in the area and some multifamily, apartments, some commercial uses kind of pushed to the outskirts, and then some civic buildings in the park. So we did do some flood research. So in February, we met with David Williams, who is the Chief of Hydrology and Hydraulics Branch at the Army Corps of Engineers, the Tulsa District. And he let us know that the new dam that's going in will not affect this location, that the water flow will still be the same. The flooding originates from the Keystone Dam and is predictable 18 to 24 hours in advance. So we thought that was useful information for this as well. And that the flood elevation is 595 feet mean sea level, and that all structures on the site will be built at 600 feet. So we considered flooding in our design as well. So we also looked at existing infrastructure. So we looked at the lighting because as we were playing around with different ideas and designs of the park, we wanted to make sure our designs were also cost effective and that we weren't going to rack up big money just moving lights when it was unnecessary to do so. We also did a parking analysis. So at the site right now, there's 1,500 parking spots around the park. And so we also consider parking as well in our designs. And we did add more parking in our designs, which you'll see in a little bit. And I'll turn it over to Tyler.
Yeah, awesome. Neat. Yeah, hey, I'm Tyler Duncan. I'm also one of the students in the program, been in the program for a year, and I make coffee in Tulsa for a living, except for whatever Sean has us doing as well. So here we go. We get into some of the designs and the actual site plan. There were 5 big moves that we really wanted to hone in on. So optimizing what we have in the park already and making improvements therein. Connecting to destinations with a multi-use trail system. Essentially, one of the biggest key ticket items to this is connecting to the Liberty Trail further north of Aspen. conserving and enhancing the natural environment because it is beautiful out there, and the diversity of all of the life that's out there, especially birding. I mean, it's incredibly beautiful. Creating a destination as well to attract visitors, as well as retaining business for people who are already coming in. And then to develop some scenarios for the Aspen Avenue for the connecting the corridor up towards the creek. So again, this is what the existing site plan looks like currently. And here are some of the proposed parking and road layouts. Like Presley was saying, we've added somewhere in the ballpark of 150 parking spots, between 150 and 200. There's a lot extra, and we've been able to get that by rearranging and creating a little bit more efficiency. One of the ways that we're able to create that efficiency is by utilizing a roundabout right here in the middle of the park. And then that'll help to move the flow of traffic and keep it steady. And we've also moved the maintenance building, which is one of the key factors for us here in moving some of the parking situations around. You can see that up here by this parking area as well. So that includes essentially a new maintenance building, which is wildly necessary. The building currently, I don't know if you've been in there right after it's flooded, but we've seen some pictures. It's pretty wild. So this is sort of an aerial view of what the roundabout could look like. An area for a food truck site, some decorative fountain in the middle of it, maybe providing an arch for the entryway into the space. One of the 3D renderings. I'm also going to go ahead and give a shout out to one of our students who's not here right now, Saljanya Mala, Sonu, great friend of ours, incredible with a lot of the designs that you're going to see in here. She's not able to be with us tonight, but I wanted to make sure that we give her credit where that credit's due. So, I mean, some of these designs are beautiful.
So when you talked about food trucks on
Right.
the roundabout, you're talking about that little grassy area.
Uh-huh.
So people have to cross the street to get to the.
You're talking about right here?
Uh-huh.
So essentially what would happen is you'd be able to,
right there.
yeah, you'd be able to
Okay.
park, you'd have an entryway for the food trucks to park right over
I
here.
see it now. Okay.
Yeah. So there's some parking that goes right on the other side over here also. And I think there's yeah, you can kind of see that there is, that we anticipate blocking off the road after this point as well to make it entirely pedestrian.
I like that.
So
I
if
did see where it
there's-
said food truck site up there, and I was like, we're not putting food trucks in the middle of the roundabout.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good job.
Just living on the wild side here. So.
They're going to throw
but
the
yeah.
bags of food at you when you round through the roundabout.
Yeah.
So
Great idea.
one of the other ways that we were able to get more parking, better flow of traffic is by moving the soccer fields around. And again, like Presley was saying, we didn't want to move the ones that already had great lighting. That costs a lot of money. It's already there. Don't fix it if it's not broken, right?
Or the turf, like the turf field.
Or the turf.
Okay.
Exactly. And so one of the things that we did is we said, okay, well, here's a lot of these little bitty fields. Why are they spread out all over the place? So we moved all of the little fields together, and you'll notice that that's right at the entrance as well. So if you're coming into the park, the first things that you're going to see is a bunch of little kids playing soccer. Immediately, that's going to help to slow down the flow of traffic a little bit and mitigate any dangerous driving. But also, there's going to be, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself here, but there's going to be some parking that we've mentioned that goes in between these. So if you have kids that are playing that are really young, if you have kids that are a little bit older that are playing on the 3/4 size, that's a great spot to be able to go, as well as the maintenance building that's right off to the side right there. There's also consideration, an idea of the West soccer expansion. We actually were able to talk to Barbara, the manager for the soccer club, about this too. It's something that they had looked into, something that they had already sort of envisioned. And so we have an expansion here that we're adding, because this gives us significantly more parking, not only for cars, but buses as well for tournaments. One of the themes that we found through all of the comprehensive plans that we looked at, whether it was parks or whichever, was we wanted this to be a regional tournament hub. And adding 11 fields, which is what this does, helps us to get there. The land is currently owned by somebody else. However, if there's a lease or a purchase that could be worked out. Those are things that we could obviously table and save for a later conversation. But I just think that's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
And Tyler, point out that also creates another entrance. to the-
Right. Yes. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a western entrance from Olive,
Yeah. that's
rather
so
than
needed.
driving through the neighborhood, which can confirm they don't appreciate it.
Okay.
I can confirm they do not appreciate it.
And secondly, good luck getting through there. It's a maze even if you are. So, so yeah, having a western entrance is a great plan. Like Dylan was talking about, the connectivity within the park as well as out of the park. Some of the proposed trail systems, we've not only alongside the roadways and some of the existing roadway, but it also goes through some of the canopy as well, and alongside the creek and the streams, as you can see. And then especially those places that are prone to flooding, we say, well, if it's already prone to flooding, we're just going to call it a wetland, and we can make great use of that. So we've got a couple wetlands in here, but then we've also got a small nature center that we've put in the northeastern corner. The goal for this was to essentially create something that could take you up into the trees, that has maybe a rotating exhibit, just like some of the other nature centers here in town. I don't know if you've ever been to the Oxley Nature Center in Tulsa. It's really rad. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can learn about the nature that exists, that's local and native to Oklahoma. Migratory birds, all that. So by having something that's similar to this, that lifts it up above that flood elevation of 595, keeps us at about that 600 feet. This is something that could be really useful for, educational purposes, small groups of kids, parties, whatever it is, to get to learn about nature. And then having a green roof like that also with wildflowers can help with pollination and encouraging the microbiome without destroying it. And so this is what one of the wetlands can look like. This is what the inside of the nature center could be. A place to walk through, to sit, for it to be quiet, peaceful. You could read. I say peaceful. There's a kid in there probably running amok, but that's all right. And then over across one of the wetlands, essentially creating a park within a park. So we know obviously that the main use of the park right now is for soccer, for baseball, for softball. But by creating multiple uses, it allows for a wider range. You're casting a wider net for more people to be able to come use the park. One of the keys to Aspen Landing is that the boardwalk and the pier here that we've created looks like part of an aspen leaf. That's one of the key design factors that we had. As you can see, the outside of the leaf comes here, and the inside vein comes along the middle. And we were wanting to make the name a little bit more meaningful to the design. And so some of the things that we've added onto this are things like those food trucks, having a kayak launch into the Hakey Creek, hoping that there's water in the Hakey Creek. Restaurants, carnival games, a Ferris wheel that you can see when you're exiting off the creek turnpike. Having the boardwalk that goes along the actual park instead of out. Or if you wanted to go out to the other side, you have zip lines that can go back and forth and connect you. A fishing pier, tiki houses, which Presley can talk about here in a minute. This is one of the renderings that we kind of envisioned it looking like, having a tarp material that covers over specific portions of the actual walk itself, so that if it's raining outside, you can still utilize the space. Yeah, here we go. This is what it looks like going through some of the trees, what it looks like inside the actual canopy area. Whether these carnival games are, parked right there, or if we have little ice cream trolleys or coffee trikes. I don't know if you've seen those. It's pretty cool being able to drive around through the park and offer those services to people. Of course, we were thinking we have the capacity to put a Ferris wheel, and especially as a destination, this is a wild attraction. The Arkansas River out here is incredibly beautiful as it is. So having the ability to, get on a Ferris wheel like this and check it out, have the visuals there, it's mind blowing to me. The zip line towers, I don't remember if we originally said zip lines as a joke, but I got to tell you, everybody loved it. And so everybody got on board with this, and envisioning a zip line tower connecting the pier and the boardwalk on the further south side to the actual mainland is just an awesome idea. Again, we've got some of the fishing piers, floating tiki huts. I'm going to let Presley talk a little bit more about some of these.
Yeah. So the inspiration behind these tiki huts, I went to Charleston, South Carolina last year, and they had these cool little floating tiki huts that have little motors. You can kind of gather around a bar area. And so I thought it was a fun idea to be kind of close to the water and kind of zip around and just enjoy people's company. This was another design. So this is a floating pier pool. And so the thought with this was it would connect people to water activities, but not necessarily Arkansas River water. There would be shade and they could access it from the pier, and there'd be different pools, so like an activity pool, kiddie pool, adult pool. Yeah. And then I'll turn it over to Dylan.
Yeah. So one of our 5 big moves was to create a destination. So a goal with that would be to bring people to the park to do things other than play soccer, baseball, and softball. So what we have here is the Aspen Amp and the Beer Garden. This is situated in the southwest corner of the park currently. Not currently, but proposed. But yeah, here's a closer up site plan. So there's the dirt trails that kind of weave within the trees there, but there's also paved trails that are going to make it more accessible for all people. There's the amphitheater and then band parking that would kind of pull back behind the amphitheater. And I don't know if you all are aware of this, but Notes Live wants to put a amphitheater along the Arkansas River. So this could be the perfect opportunity for that. We have some renderings here of the beer garden. So the goal kind of with the design of the beer garden was to make it something that could hold a lot of people. We have these pretty cool seating things around the trees. And then you have like the actual structure itself that's kind of elevated a little bit due to flood reasons. But to fit a lot of people, but also not make it awkward if there's only 4 or 5 people there hanging out. And then kind of the same strategy with the amphitheater would be to, here you have about, I would say like 40 people here attending a concert. You could pop them all on the lawn and make it feel full, or you could have a larger musician here to perform and people could sit on those seats in the back. And if you notice, the amphitheater is within walking distance of the beer garden, as well as the softball fields. I don't know if there's any adult softball leagues that play here, but I think it sounds pretty cool to win your softball game and go get a beer with your team. Or lose and get a beer with your team. You might need one more. Yeah. But yeah, I think this would be a great addition to the park, just to encourage a different crowd, I guess, to come and spend some time there. Back to Tyler.
Awesome. So one of the other aspects that we had envisioned is a dog park along the southeastern portion. One of the things that it could look like is having restaurant, retail space. I sort of envision retail space including space where you can rent bicycles, storage for if you have like a coffee trike or anything like that. Again, I can't not think about things in coffee terms. So, but having somebody be able to work on and repair bicycles, whether that's people who are riding their bicycles along the trails, people who are riding it along the pedestrian ways along the boardwalk as well. Broken Arrow has a ton of great local businesses that could fit that area and draw a lot of people down there. And then one of the last things here is this, the development opportunity that we see that is just above one of the larger baseball diamonds. That school, all that land is currently owned by somebody else. But when we see that, we see a lot of great synergy that could exist between the developers and the city in developing out what this space could look like. Currently, when people come into town for the tournament, the nearest hotel that they have is miles away. When people want to go eat, if they need a break and they come back after maybe an hour, Our goal is, instead of people driving to Bixby to spend their money or elsewhere, we can keep them here. Not only can we keep them here by way of the food or retail services, things like that, we can keep them here by housing them in a boutique hotel, something along those lines. It's definitely something that we found was incredibly necessary out here. And again, if we're building out and connecting Aspen Avenue, there's already a lot of work that's being done currently in expanding Aspen Avenue, adding some more pedestrian-friendly access, widening the road, so that the Aspen corridor can begin to connect all of those neighborhoods to the south and Indian Springs to the north with all the development that's going on. And so this is one of the sort of visions that we have for how Aspen Avenue can look. And after all is said and done, this is our Aspen Landing proposed site plan. The western entrance, you've got the northern entrance with the archway, the roundabout that can divert you either to the Taylor Swift concert that you're going to go see at the amphitheater, Christy, or if you need to stay in the hotel that's over across the stream there, or if you are just trying to go hit up the zip lines, or if you want to hang out at the beach, the tiki huts, and get on your kayak. These are all of the things that we had envisioned at the behest of and the guidance of the stakeholder group, as well as the master plans and the community engagement that we had with folks from Broken Arrow. So some of these next steps that we have, we've presented to some of the city leadership already. Farhad has already presented to the Planning Commission. I believe it was a unanimous approval. Here we are presenting to the City Council. And then some next steps that we have past this are a recommended citizens feedback survey. That's something that we would highly recommend just to get more people on board with it. And then maybe also develop some preliminary cost estimates. That's another thing that we obviously would recommend as one of the next steps. And then exploring any of the funding options, capital improvements plan, utilizing park fees and leases, especially if there is a western expansion that connects it to Olive. Any state, federal grants, obviously private philanthropy are some different ways to generate the means that are necessary to see this come to fruition. But yeah, some of the benefits, I think, as we've already seen, it preserves and enhances the current team sporting events that are there. It mitigates flood impacts and provides better maintenance facilities. I'm going to say that one more time. Better maintenance facilities. It encourages the current park visitors to stay in Broken Arrow. It attracts new visitors with a variety of different activities as a new destination. It promotes development along the Aspen Avenue corridor that connects to the Creek Turnpike and provides Broken Arrow with its own accessible, beautiful waterfront. Questions?
So just real quick, I know that how did you guys decide to pick this as your project?
That's a great question. I think Sean is probably better suited to answer that as well voluntold.
Yeah.
So
You're like, we didn't.
we need to thank Farhad Daroga. So Farhad serves on the studio's professional and community advisory board, and we meet 3 times a year. And I'm always looking to them for projects and opportunities like this. And I thank Farhad and Amanda, who's one of our grads, and all of the city staff that participated, and all of you tonight, because this was a great learning experience for them. And hopefully we can give you something back in return that, is useful as well. But it really has worked out great for them. So I don't know, Farhad, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's outstanding and would be absolutely amazing for our city. And it's just really cool that you guys selected us to have for your project. It's a lot of work. I mean, I'm sure you guys figured that out. There's a lot of elements in there. So
A lot of hiking too.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
They earned their grade.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
But we'd love to hear from you. So what are some questions that you have, whether from council members or anybody else?
I love the idea, and I like keeping what we have there, but even making it better,
Right.
and then adding all the other things that you've added. Zip line. I mean,
I
I can
could
see
like
where
all
people
out.
would see that as a destination, but I also don't like people having to go to Bigsby or somewhere else to eat.
Right.
Keeping them in Broken Arrow, I think, is very important as well.
Absolutely.
So you had the soccer and baseball, both were on your thing. And so like, obviously they were part of it, but how were they, I mean, obviously receptive to this because it would probably help
Absolutely.
tournaments and such is what I would
Right.
think. So,
And that's specifically one of the biggest things that Barbara mentioned. There were two things. The first one was that we needed the new soccer fields.
sure.
According to the guidelines, the prerequisites for being a host for a regional tournament means that we need to have those soccer fields specifically.
Okay.
That number of them, which is why we had added the 11 extra soccer fields. The other
Certain
aspect
tournaments
was
you can't
parking.
do.
Everybody wanted to make sure that we had enough parking. So not only do we not eliminate any of the parking, we added parking and we eliminated a lot of the bottleneck and congestion through this roundabout and moving a lot of the kids' soccer fields right there at the entrance. Imagine going from this side of the fields all the way over to the other side of the Indian Springs Sports Complex, because you've got your kids have these games which are way over here and then way over here. But by having everything a little bit more compact, it helps with that traffic flow a little bit better.
And the resident that was on your committee too, I'm sure she was excited about that other
100%.
entrance.
100%.
Yes, because I mean, some of the people in the neighborhood, they like literally decide on Saturday if they're going to go to the grocery store or not after soccer is finished.
Yeah.
I mean, it really impacts her. I used to work at the police department, so I would get complaints all the
Oh, yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it is a really big thing for sure.
I can tell you as a dad of two boys who play soccer there and a coach who coaches soccer there, that there definitely needs to be another entrance. And I, for one, hate the loop, because after the games are out, you sit in that loop for 30 minutes waiting to get out. It's a one-way loop, and you have to sit there and wait. And I think adding some of these enhancements would also give those parents after the game something else we can go and do, so everybody's not trying to exit at one time. I love the roundabout idea and the other features that.
One of the things, to your point as well, about some of the parking structures is that instead of having just a normal parking lot, like you can come in from either direction, some of the parking features would be that it helps to dictate the flow of traffic as well. So instead of somebody pulling in this way, coming out this way, or vice versa,
Right.
it's a very clear, this is the direction that
It's a
you
flow.
go. Yeah,
For sure. And the maintenance building is horrible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So maintenance.
And to your point about parents going to the soccer game and then leaving. So our first event, we actually did go to a soccer game, a soccer tournament. Barbara invited us and we were like, oh, this will be where we get the most people. And from our experience, we did find that parents like to come watch their soccer, play soccer and leave. So we do hope that this helps, give activities for the parents as well. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it looks like a broad point of destination for families, in different areas,
Sure.
which certainly is interested to us in Broken Arrow. This area at one time, you couldn't look at that because of the flooding, because it would flood every year until they built Keystone Dam. And you can tell by all the sand that was built from the flooding areas. But they built the dam, which really kept it from flooding for years. But now when it floods, every once in a while, it's the dam's fault. And that happened back in the 80s. And when water last time it really got up in a school, it got up in a lot of the houses. That's a 500-year floodplain. But the Keystone Dam was full of water, and they were afraid it was going to run over the top. And there was a 10-inch rain coming. And so the Corps of Engineers called us and gave us 12 hours, and they're going to open all of the dams. And that flooded everything. So they purposely knew they were going to flood it, but they had to protect the integrity of the dam.
Wow.
So they did do that. The 10-inch rain didn't go into Keystone. The 10-inch rain hit Fort Smith the same time the flood hit Fort Smith. So they got flooded twice as badly. So the Corps was really in a bind. They came and apologized to the city of Broken Arrow. So the flooding is not an issue as much anymore as it was. So if you're building things that could last in a low flood, I think it would be great. And as they said, the sandy beaches, you can end up with that along the Arkansas River. And Arkansas River, by the way, is a lot cleaner now than it certainly was 20 or 30 years ago. So I think it's a great place, great location, great opportunities.
Yeah.
Great opportunities.
I think I think you've added a lot of things that would draw other community members besides those who have kids to play sports. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. I
wonderful.
would go see Taylor Swift.
She's a Swiftie.
You will
look
never
like a
see me at a
Swiftie.
Taylor Swift concert. Yeah.
I think it grows more than.
So whenever I was lucky enough to get to see all this, and I just appreciate y'all's work so much.
Oh, thank
And
you.
when y'all mentioned the roundabout, everyone looked at me because y'all don't know this, but I'm like obsessed with roundabouts.
Oh,
And so,
really?
and I
She
never
doesn't
told
wanna
I
eat
never
that
told
once.
them that because I wanted everything to be like I didn't want to change sway what you were doing. And it also happens to be in my ward. So I did another roundabout in my ward. So that would be awesome. But
I think this works for everybody.
yeah, that's right.
Good job.
But whenever my daughter played soccer for about 6 years, and so we were out there all the time. And the way that the littles, it was very weird because typically as a parent you have, which I only have one, but if you have more than one child, your children are fairly close in age typically. And so if you have these soccer fields that are like one's way over here and one's way over here, there would be a lot of parents that would have to like one parent go to this soccer field and you go way over here. So I never really understood that. And I always just kind of felt like it would just happen that way. Like, okay, we'll just stick this soccer field over here because that's where and I'm kind of assuming that's what happened. Like this is where we have space. So that's where we'll put it. But I do know that the soccer club manager, she did give some very like this is what we have to have. And there were things that you all had talked about that she was like, I don't know if that's going to work. And so you got some very honest feedback from a lot of different people. I think but one of the things she did talk about is there are certain tournaments that we just can't have in Broken Arrow right now because we don't have enough soccer fields out there. And so so the person, that we're talking about their land, we might have to like go actually buy their land eventually because after we keep talking about their land like we have it, but it's not but if we can make that happen and have that access over to Olive, it would be huge. But the other thing is right now, when my daughter had a tournament, we would literally, because we didn't want to have a picnic because where do you go? It was like right now and so we would literally leave, go get something, come back, or like one person was like sent out to get food for all of us. But this would make it to where you don't have to leave. You could stay there. You could have a picnic if you wanted, because there's someplace there, that's more fun to hang out for a couple hours in between games and also more safe. So plus just all the fun things you could do. And I will tell you, when I was in 8th grade, my boyfriend and I did win. We were in the paper. We won the sandcastle contest on the Arkansas River. No, not here. In downtown Tulsa, there was a sandcastle contest we had every year, and we made a frog. And when I say we, I mean I sprayed water and he made the frog. And because I'm not artistic, but we swam in the river in the 80s, and which is so gross to think about, but we were hot. But I'm thinking we could have a sandcastle contest out there, you don't have to get in the water to do that, but there's so many things you could do that, they don't do that anymore in Tulsa. So we have sand, you could have a sandcastle contest. So
I would go to that.
yeah. Yep. Anyway,
We learned something
great
new
job,
every
you guys.
day.
I know.
know you were a sandcastle
Yeah, I
queen.
did.
Yes.
That
Me and
So-
Sam Johnson, yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
we've added here, just want to highlight the fact that the asset that the city has built over here since about 1977, 78. The soccer club has approximately 3,700 games a year, all of the games.
Mhm.
When we calculated the number of people, it probably brings in 60 to 70,000 people throughout the year for all of the games. Some of them are repeat families. And when you count additional visitors, that might be even more. So here is an asset that the city owns. We own 235 plus or 34 acres that we've invested in a long, long time. Of course, it is in the floodplain. So this is how it was introduced in our comprehensive plan. We have an asset, we're using it, but it's only for somewhat limited purposes. And the soccer club is very interested in adding additional soccer fields, which will be kind of a challenge to acquire or lease more land.
Mhm.
And also there's a pipeline on the south side and the southwest side that will require also a challenge because this is fairly erosive, sandy soil. So having said all that, this is a wonderful asset. There's a lot of opportunities. And as we've expanded over the years, we started with 140 acres and then added a few more. And then we bought the horse farm that has put us to this point at this stage. I see this as possibility that if we move forward with this, this will be the third or fourth large expansion of this Indian Springs sports complex that we are marketing as Aspen Landing.
It's exciting. Yeah.
Very good.
I also want to thank Professor Sean Schaefer, all of the students and the group that worked with us, including our staff, as well as Kenny. And we met with the Corps engineers as well. So it's gotten wonderful reviews and acknowledgement from everybody we met with.
Farhad, if I may, we might have skipped Kevin. I don't know. Kevin, would you like to add anything, from your perspective?
Actually, the answer is no.
Okay.
You guys have covered this amazingly well, and I am. I think I've told you right from the very beginning. I'm very impressed with the students. I'm very impressed with the quality of the program. This kind of presentation is rare to see this level of quality, this level of thoughtfulness put into this type of project. So, other than kudos to everybody that's done it, I have very little to add.
Yeah, you guys were amazing. This is
Okay.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Did you have anything?
Oh, I'm just wanting council to comment.
Anyone, anything else?
Okay. Council could take a couple of steps. One of the things that was recommended was a citizens survey. And as the council knows, as a part of this year, in connection with our initiative to talk about priorities within the community and specifically the next bond package, we were going to do a survey. And so we could certainly incorporate questions regarding this initiative in that survey, which I recommend that we do. And I'm going to ask a couple of council members to serve on that subcommittee for this fall to work on this. And there's some additional information I need to share with you when I have all the latest information from finance. But I can tell the council members that we did get our preliminary assessment back for the community. And I'm pleased to tell the council that between Tulsa and Wagner County, our assessment went up 9%. And so that means that instead of being able to sell $25.5 million of the general obligation bond package for this year, we're going to be presenting a package to the council that will be $36 million. And so that's $9 million off the current bond package. As I've shared with you during the budget discussions, it's time to start preparing for the next bond package. And I think at some point, probably sooner than later, that we need to develop some estimates for what this project could cost and then have it looked at this master plan and then have phases to look at, because what you see here is you have recommendation for improvements in what I'll call the Indian Springs Sports Complex proper, the actual soccer, the infrastructure and so forth. And then you've got additional improvements on the river itself. And I mentioned kind of tongue in cheek recently that this project easily could compete with Elam Park in terms of community center. And so what I'm trying to determine right now is how much the council would be able to present to the voters in a total package for the next bond package to represent a no tax rate increase, with keeping the tax rate of 16.5 mils the same, to see what that would be. And then from there, council make determinations on what propositions. You heard a lot in there. For example, the maintenance building, that's one of the facilities that we're going to have to look at taking care of in the next bond package. Absolutely needs to be addressed. We need additional money for some other buildings we're working on to round out those constructions to make sure we take care of those areas, as well as a new city hall. And so my recommendation is council authorize the staff to include the questions about this initiative in the survey we're going to do. And then let me work with staff to determine how we would go forward with starting to secure the estimates for this project, because I'd like to include it in the package that we would present to the council to determine what you would finally approve to go to the voters for their consideration at some point in the very near future.
So there hasn't been any cost estimates
No.
at this point. This is just, okay.
No, and then
'Cause
actually,
you definitely, I think you have to have some idea of what it could cost when you're asking people to consider it.
Mhm.
So
absolutely, Mayor. I mean, because obviously you look at this and probably there's nothing you wouldn't want.
Right.
I mean, but you start looking at the improvements to the river, and those are extremely expensive. There's no question about that. And believe me, I'm not a naysayer, because I'd love to see us have everything there. And that doesn't mean we have to complete everything in
sure.
one swoop. And that's why if you're doing a 10-year package, if you do it in phases, roads are always pretty much the number one priority for the city. And so you really look at, if you have a master plan and you have all the project tentative costs, then you actually look at what can we do in a 10-year period, knowing that you've got land acquisition requirements in there for the additional fields, the possibility of a connection to Olive, right away design. You're talking 2 or 3 years to basically do a road. So we just would put in the program what council determined we could do in the next 10 years. And then you keep talking about it. So the next time you go to the voters after that, you would just continue. If you make the commitment to the master plan, you say that, it's 7 phases.
Yeah.
Overall. You try to get as many of those phases into the 10 years that you can realistically do. And then you complete those, tell the public you complete them. And then you say, in the next time we get a package, you just build the excitement, because what the council said we were going to do, we did. And then that just becomes a legacy that we implement, and each time there's a next round of bond packages.
Yeah, it seems like the first phase definitely would need to be your food options. So like the food truck, a better entrance, acquiring the land and additional fields, because you want to utilize what you have already and make it where we can hold tournaments. But the maintenance facilities, so like that
better
first phase would be-
connectivity.
Yeah.
And that's when you're.
Well, that's what you're doing too, is you're passing part of that development on to future councils.
That's right, sir.
And
Yeah.
that's why you get your master plan. And as the mayor said, talking about purchasing the land, I mean, you need to look at that as one of the priorities, because the land might get so high after you develop part of it that you couldn't afford that land.
Yeah.
So it looks to me like it would be certainly be one of them, but they would be phased in and then go to the next one. And that's the way some of our bigger facilities have been built. You know what I mean? That's the way this was built, a little bit at a time, as the city could afford it.
You covered it perfectly, Councilman. The things that are not real exciting that have to be done, the foundational things that actually set you to where you can build upon them. The infrastructure, there's no question that there's infrastructure improvements that need to be made to that park. We've talked about it. We want our Arrowhead softball complex to have turf for the girls to play on. We've talked about baseball improvements. Is this where we want to make baseball improvements, or is it time as a part of next bond package to look at actually another baseball complex that actually has turf? So unless it's rainy right then and there, there's no rainouts anymore. Because what we want to do when it comes to sports, we want to be the premier place to play between Dallas and Kansas City. And by adding these fields, we actually create that opportunity to be able to host those large tournaments that Barbara's talked about to pretty much all of you. And so I think the next step is once again, let's incorporate some questions into the survey. And I do think certain aspects of this, in order to make sure we have the community support, we'll have to redo reconfiguration of the soccer fields. We're going to have to look at trying to add some soccer fields. We know that when you talk about turf, that's not cheap. So we've really got to look at this and planning this and setting it up and just knocking the phases out based on when funding is available. And that's why I said this could compete with Elam Park. I mean, council said that one of their priorities right now is another community center in the southwest part of our city. When you go and you look at this, and it really makes you pause for a minute, because I think Farhad's right. It's just additional investment in an area that the city has actually been spending money on for almost 50 years. So I couldn't be more excited about this. It's just a matter of, like I've said many times, we can do anything we want Broken Arrow. We just can't do everything right now. So it's going to become the council, my recommendation, your responsibility to determine. I think that survey will tell, if we do it correctly, what the residents after roads, what they're going to believe would be the top priorities when it comes to these improvements. And then we can build a bond package based on the input from the citizens, the staff, and then the council weighing in. And then we go out to the community, and we have 3 to 5 different meetings. We everybody put the stickers up on what's a priority. We come back, finalize it like we did in 2018, and then we do public education.
Okay.
And what I'm not going to share, because I don't have exact details, we may be doing that sooner than I've been sharing with you in 2027, because of how successful and how the city has grown in terms of assessed value, and then being able to sell bonds we thought we were going to be selling on the back end, we'll be able to move up. So it's very exciting, very exciting. So I'd ask council what I really is a motion that we accept the project and that we do the survey and begin looking at estimates for the master plan.
So moved.
Second.
What he said.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
We need you to
Oh,
click in
sorry.
for your motion and your second, please.
Now
we
we have a
go.
motion and a second.
There we go.
Approved.
Now, I
Good
would
job,
say
you
this,
guys.
Mayor, if I can, is that I do think that when we start talking about this, that there should be a citizens advisory committee that is appointed, that's made up of all the sports that are going to be a part of this, and additional citizens that actually may help you make the determination about what those priorities need to be. Staff needs to be a part of this, because everybody's immediately going to want somebody's going to want the landing, and somebody's going to want the soccer. Someone's going to want the food truck. Somebody's going to want, I think she sits 2 people from me, the roundabout, so all these things. So let the committee come back to you. And so therefore you're taking advice from them on how we should proceed.
I agree.
That's a good idea.
All right. So item 5 is remarks from governing body members. Is there any? City manager?
No, Mayor, I just thank you for your time. This is a lot of an effort that went into by some volunteers, and I couldn't be happier with their efforts, and I appreciate you for adopting this, and we'll get started.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right. We are adjourned. Can I turn your mic off, Kristen?
Pretty impressive, huh?
Yeah. I was like, do they have another class that can get some cost estimates for us?
Yes.
Yeah.